Welcome to your Daily Dopamine with Dr. Joe McCullough, where we deliver daily doses of education, entertainment, and inspiration. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be dopamine, dopamine, dopamine. Oh, yeah.
All right. Hey there, Lily. Welcome back. So today we are going to be talking about VAK Learning Strategies. This is part 3 of a 3-part series. What I'm going to do is go through everything. So what do I mean by, what does my t-shirt say? It says, down with negativity. Okay, so what does VAK stand for? It stands for visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. Yes, thumbs up. We take in information with our 5 senses, obviously, but only 3 of those are usually associated with learning. We got visual, everything we take in through our eyes; auditory, everything we take in through our ears; and kinesthetic, everything we take in with our body, our tactile senses. Lily, thank you for inviting your followers. Now, we also obviously have a sense of smell and a sense of taste, but those are not usually associated with learning. So the 3 main ways we take in information for learning: visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. And the key point is these are stored in different parts of the brain. Now, everything we take in through our eyes, our visual data, ultimately, if we take it in and it gets stored in our long-term memory, it gets stored in a part of the brain called the visual cortex. Auditory information, everything we take in through our ears, gets stored in our temporal lobes or our auditory cortex. And then kinesthetic information, our tactile senses, what we do with our body, gets stored in a part of the brain called the somatosensory cortex. So what does this mean? Excuse me. If you want the learning to be deeper, if you want the information to be stored in more parts of your brain so it's easier to remember, you need to use different learning modalities. Is there a drug like Coke that can inhibit that? Ooh, good question. I'm not sure offhand. I will have to actually look into that. So, VAK Learning Strategies is what we're doing today. I'm going to give you 25 different strategies. Your job: pick and choose the ones that work best for you. Hey there, Silver Lining. Let me actually close this window real quick. It's making some sound. All right, I'm back. So let's go through 8 visual learning strategies. The very first one is create a mind map or learning map. Now, I'm not going to go through this in detail. I just did a Google search on mind maps, and I came up with 150 million. It's warm in here. Can you open up a window? You'll probably see me sweating because it is warm in here. I came up with 150 million different sites dealing with mind maps. So what I'm going to do is just turn this around and show you a couple examples. That obviously would not be one of them. Now, mind maps were created by somebody called Tony Buzan, B-U-Z-A-N. And a mind map is a very visual way of representing data. So here's a little mind map on mind map guidelines. What you're generally doing is you're starting with a main concept in the middle, and then you're drawing related concepts that are branching off. You use lots of color, lots of images, and it's a great way of visually representing the data because we tend to be visual learners. Now, for me, this is a mind map I made for a talk I was giving. I found that I could generally condense about 45 minutes of information onto a 1-page mind map. And there's also some pretty cool software out there that'll let you make mind maps. Okay, now I hate sort of just giving something without explaining it in detail, but I could do an entire series on mind maps. I just want to introduce the concept to you. It's a great way of representing data. Excuse me, my voice is a little hoarse. Okay, 2, second visual strategy: sit where you have a clear view of the teacher or instructor. If you're taking a class and you sit in the back row, ask yourself why. Studies have shown that the closer to the front students sit, generally they do better. Now, it's possible this is self-selecting because students that are more serious oftentimes sit in the front, but it could also be because as you sit farther back, you have more distractions between you and the teacher. It's easier to become distracted. 3, And this is a big one. Take detailed notes using lots of color. There's nothing more boring to the brain than looking at a page of text that's all in one color, no images, no pictures. So anytime you're taking notes, think about using lots of color. I recommend developing your own color coding. Now, you may not be able to take notes in color during class, but a great thing to do is right after class is done, review your notes, add color, add pictures, add images. Visual strategy number 4 is use a highlighter when reading. When you're reading material and you come across something you want to remember, highlight it. But you want to highlight sparingly. You don't want to over-highlight. Visual strategy number 5, review pictures, graphs, and diagrams. If you're reading a textbook and it has a picture or a graph or a diagram or a chart, do not skip it. I know a lot of students tend to just gloss over pictures and charts and diagrams, but we're very visual learners. A picture is worth 1,000 words. It's much easier to think about and study and think about images than it is text. Okay, visual strategy number 6. Does the brain have any kind of threshold, like a certain amount of new information it can take in? Lily, great question. I'm going to get to that when I talk about frequent breaks, but after about a half hour of intense studying, your cognitive abilities start to decline. A visual learner, great, in a day. Let me see if I can touch on that at the end, but I recommend studying for 25 minutes at a time. Okay, so 6. Summarize material using charts, pictures, and diagrams. So if you're writing notes to study from, most people never really add diagrams and charts and things like that to the notes. Think about adding your own pictures. Okay, 2 more visual strategies we have is use multimedia such as videos and animations. We love videos. YouTube, obviously, as you know, is huge. If you can find some kind of video which is reviewing the material that you're studying, it's a lot easier to just take in information, and oftentimes people enjoy it more. And then last but not least, visualize and create a mental picture of what you are learning. If you can't picture it in your mind's eye, it's incredibly difficult to remember it. So think about actually creating a mental image, picturing in your mind's eye exactly what you're studying. Okay, so those were 8 visual strategies. Let's review them real quick. 1, mind map or learning map. 2, sit where you have a clear view of the instructor or teacher. 3, take detailed notes using lots of color. 4, use multimedia and animations. 5, visualize and create a mental picture of what you are learning. 6, use a highlighter when reading. 7, review pictures, diagrams, and charts. And then 8, summarize material using pictures, diagrams, and charts. So those are 8 visual strategies for taking in information visually and making sure it's stored in your visual cortex. Now let's talk auditory. All the information that we take in through our ears, ultimately, if it gets stored in our long-term memory, stored in our temporal lobe or auditory cortex. Here are 8 auditory strategies. Strategy number 1, find a study buddy or group. Studying with another person with a group can be highly beneficial. Bouncing ideas off of each other, quizzing each other, explaining the material to each other is great, as long as you stay focused on the task at hand and don't let it turn into a social outing. Okay, 2, explain what you are learning to others. A lot of people think they know the material well until they try and explain it to somebody else. If you cannot explain something simply, you don't know it well enough. 3, if you're in class, ask lots of questions during class. Never let a misconception go without clearing it up. Ideally, ask a question as soon as you have any kind of misunderstanding. 4, actively participate in all class discussions. If you're in a class that has some kind of group discussion or class discussion, do not shy away. Actively participate. 5, study in a quiet place away from verbal distractions. If you're an auditory learner, auditory learners tend to be easily distracted by noise. Think about studying someplace quiet. 6, create a musical jingle or song when memorizing material. There's something about music that just makes it stick. Think about how many hundreds or even thousands of songs you know by heart. And then think about how many you actively tried to memorize. Just something about music, it makes it stick. Okay, 2 more auditory strategies we have are read material out loud. The more dramatic, the better. Think about reading material out loud. Not only are you reading it, but you're hearing yourself say it. It's coming back through your ears, getting reprocessed by your temporal lobes. And then last but not least, use your smartphone to record yourself reviewing material and then listen to in the car or in line. Think about using your smartphone as an outstanding resource for studying. There's something about listening to our own voice. If you can record yourself listening to the music or if you can record yourself reviewing the material and then listen to your recording, there's something about hearing our own voice that makes it more memorable. Okay, so those were 8 auditory strategies. Let's review them real quick. We've got find a study buddy or group. 2, explain what you are learning to others. 3, ask lots of questions during class. 4, actively participate in all class discussions. 5, study in a quiet place away from verbal distractions. 6, create a musical jingle or song when memorizing material. 8, read the material out loud. The more dramatic, the better. And last but not least, use your smartphone. Record yourself reviewing the material and then listen to the recording. All right, so we are talking about VAK Learning Strategies. I went through 8 visual, 8 auditory. Now let's touch on 9 different kinesthetic strategies. Now, anything we do with our body, our tactile senses, gets stored in a part of the brain called the somatosensory cortex. So kinesthetic strategy number 1, take notes in class and then review your notes or rewrite your notes. If you're a student, you want to take notes during class. And ideally, right when class is done, spend 10 or 15 minutes reviewing your notes, rewrite any notes that you're not clear on. Kinesthetic strategy number 2, read the textbook. This is so important. Students tend to not want to read the textbook, but one of the best things you can do is read the textbook before class starts. It exposes your brain to the information so that you're not hearing it and trying to learn it for the very first time. Excuse me. Kinesthetic strategy number 3 is put a check mark at the end of each paragraph or page to show that you understand the material. So if you don't understand it, don't put a check mark next to it. You know you need to come back to it. Okay, kinesthetic strategy number 4, and Lily, this is for you. Take frequent breaks. What I recommend is something called the Pomodoro technique, where you study for 25 focused minutes. You actually get a timer, set it for 25 minutes, and you do not stop until those 25 minutes are done. And during those 25 minutes, no cell phone, no Facebook. Don't use the computer unless it's necessary for what you're learning. You want to do 25 focus minutes on, then take a 5 or 10 minute break, and then do another 25 focus minutes, another 5 or 10 minute break. Keep repeating that process. Okay, excuse me. 4, create gestures or motions to help remember content. Notice every single time I say visual, auditory, and kinesthetic, there's a motion associated with it. And it's even hard for me to say visual, auditory, and kinesthetic without doing the motion, because when I learned it, it was drilled in visual, auditory, kinesthetic. And there was even a song associated with it. Okay, here's one you may not have thought of. Oh, excuse me. Chew gum while studying. If you're kinesthetic learners tend to want to move their body. Chewing gum while studying can help relieve some of that. And I know students who really, really get a lot out of this. Okay, 3 more. We've got kinesthetic strategy number 7. Make notes on index cards and then arrange in a logical sequence. Number 8. Walk around while you are reading and or studying or listening to audio tapes. Now, maybe I should say MP3s instead of audio tapes, but you can actually get a lot of benefit from walking while you are studying. And then last but not least, hi. My wife just came home. Oh, she's leaving again. Hi, bye. Last but not least, we've got shift your position while studying or while sitting. Like I said, kinesthetic learners tend to be a little antsy. Hi, Joe's wife. Bye, Joe's wife. Kinesthetic learn. Thanks, Lily. Kinesthetic learners tend to want to move their body. So if you're sitting in one place for a long time, think about shifting your position. Okay, so let's review those kinesthetic strategies, and then we will be done for today. So kinesthetic strategy number 1, take notes in class and then rewrite your notes. 2, read the textbook. Please, if you're a student, read the textbook. Ideally, read it before class starts. Number 3, put a check mark at the end of each paragraph or page to show that you understand the material. Kinesthetic strategy number 4, take frequent breaks. Think about studying for 25 minutes on and then 5 or 10 minutes off. Are people with ADHD naturally kinesthetic learners because they constantly tend to move and fidget while learning? Oh, great question, and I don't know the answer to that. My guess would be no. People have ADHD for a variety of reasons, and sometimes it's even overdiagnosed. You can train yourself to focus more. Okay, 5, create gestures or motions to help memorize material. 6, chew gum while studying. 7, make notes on index cards and arrange in a logical sequence. 8, walk around while you read or listen to audio tapes or MP3s. And then last but not least, shift your position when sitting. Well, that was it. We went through 25 different learning strategies, visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. If you're a student or if you're anyone learning material, you don't want to learn it one way because then it's only stored in one part of your brain. All of our visual information is stored in our visual cortex, auditory information in our temporal lobes or auditory cortex, and then kinesthetic information in our somatosensory cortex. If you want the learning to be deeper, you want to use different learning strategies. Well, that is it. My name is Joe, and I'm on Periscope every day sharing daily doses of dopamine through education, entertainment, and inspiration. Tomorrow, I'm going to show you some awesome physics using liquid nitrogen, and then on Sunday, I'm going to teach a magic trick. So thank you for joining. I hope you have a wonderful, today is Friday. Sorry I asked so many questions. Great scope as always. Lily, I love your questions. Never apologize for asking questions. And thank you for I'm glad you enjoy them. So my name is Joe. I hope to catch you sometime in the near future. Have a wonderful weekend. See you there, Lily.